Welcome to the Parents Using Human Design podcast. I'm Courtney. I'm here with Bryn, and this is our second episode. And today we're going to talk about the overview of the specific energy types in human design and kind of what those mean so that when you're looking at your chart, you can kind of filter out what information is for you and what's not for you. We're not going to go into specifics today. We're going to go very general overview of this. And yeah, I'm going to let Bryn start that off with whatever one you want to start off with.
Okay, so if you are just coming to human design and you're learning about for the first time, or if you've been studying human design, you know that we always start with strategy and authority. So strategy is your related to your aura type, and your authority is your decision making process. So as Courtney said, we're going to focus on just like the aura type today, just thinking about how does your energy work, and then how might that impact dynamics within your family and the way that your children operate. And I think where we really want to focus today is how that influences the way that you parent. And so becoming aware of the way that your energy naturally works, you can start to see different ways that you can maybe release expectations or adjust some behavior or have some compassion for yourself and for your family members. So let's start at the top. In human design, there are 5 different energy types. Technically, there's 4, but one is kind of split into 2. So I'll say that there are 5 different energy types. So we have manifestors, generators, manifesting generators, projectors, and reflectors. When you run your chart, if you haven't done that, you should grab a free chart. You can get that at my website, brynbrown.com/free chart, or go to Genetic Matrix or Jovian Archive or myhumandesign.com, wherever you want to go to get your free chart. You'll see your type usually listed at the top. Every chart looks a little bit different, but that's definitely the main archetype that we're looking at. And what this has to do with is how your aura is actually set up. Okay. So when let's just go through the 5. So if you're a manifester, you have what's called a closed and repelling aura. This is not bad. This is not bad. Okay. I want you to hear that. If you're a manifester, it's not bad that you have a closed and repelling aura. What it means is that your aura, your energy field, is naturally protective of you because you have a direct line to sort of inspiration and this inner urge to move in the direction that you want. Your aura is actually very protective to make sure that people aren't coming in and interrupting you, because once you're interrupted, it can be really difficult or challenging to get back on track. So that's by design. The signature sort of energies around a manifestor aura are really feeling a sense of peace when things are aligned, and really feeling angry when things are not aligned. So if you're a manifestor parent, you might find anger coming up as a primary theme in your household when things are not aligning. Okay. I'm going to leave that there, and we'll go through each of the types, and then we'll talk about real life and how this might play out. Okay. If you are a generator, you have an open and enveloping aura. You are just literally designed to just receive everything in your environment because you're designed to respond. I actually forgot to mention, for manifestors, you're designed to initiate and inform. Okay. This is key. We'll get into it later. I'm just giving you this now because you're going to see it, and it will come into it'll come into the conversation in a little bit. So as a generator, you're open and enveloping, you're receiving from your environment because you are designed to respond. When you are in alignment with things around you and in your home and in your environment, you're going to feel a deep sense of satisfaction. And when you are out of alignment, you're going to feel frustrated, very, very frustrated. And this is, I kind of laugh because I think with these signature themes, people always chuckle a little bit when they hear that because it's so familiar to them. If you are a manifesting generator, you are a generator at your core, but you have elements of the manifester. So you're designed to respond like a generator and then initiate and inform. So it's kind of this blend of the 2 types, but your aura is still open and enveloping. You're still designed to respond to your environment. So you have this really, like, you're really just picking up and feeling everything around you. If you are a projector, you have a focused aura. It's kind of conical in shape and it's sort of like heart to heart. It zooms in. It's very focused and penetrating. So that means your aura isn't absorbing everything around you. It's sort of like you zoom in on the one person and it allows you to see the unseen. So you can really see things about people that they may or may not want you to see. And so as such, you are designed to wait for the invitation. So manifestors are initiating and informing. Generators are responding. Manifesting generators are responding and then initiating and informing. And projectors are waiting for an invitation. So what that means is that you need that other person that your aura is zoomed in on to invite you to share the insights and the things that you see. Huge implications as a projector parent, huge implications for sharing advice and directing people because you're here to guide. When you're aligned, you are going to feel a deep sense of success. And when you are out of alignment, you're going to feel really, really bitter. Okay. And sometimes for women, that's not a word that we've associated with our feelings a lot. So resentful. Okay. Resentful. So, if you're a reflector, you have this sampling. It's absorbing and sampling this aura. So essentially a reflector, this is such a small percentage of the population. I mean, we're talking like 1%, maybe less of the population are reflectors. And this means that you are basically like a mirror. So you're mirroring your entire environment and pulling in the things that feel good or that you want to kind of sample. And so with that, when you're aligned, things feel like a surprise. To me, it feels more like delight. Like you are delighted by things. When you are out of alignment, you're going to feel very disappointed, very, very disappointed. And remember, your environment, you're reflecting your environment. So yes, you are still you at your core. However, it's very environmentally dependent in terms of the way that you're experiencing life and certainly within your household. Okay, I'll pause there. Did I forget anything?
I don't think so. I think you covered all of it, like the general overview.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important to note that we're talking about being a parent using the human design lens, and we need to kind of look at ourselves first, right? Because it impacts how you parent.
Yes.
So we're talking about how we are as parents, but then we'll also get a look into like the kids' charts and like how to kind of use that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. So
Definitely have your own chart. Definitely know your children's. And also, if you have a co-parent or co-parents, knowing their charts can be extremely helpful as well.
yeah, it just helps you understand the people that
Yeah.
you're surrounded by and how they're meant to respond and how they're meant to make decisions and how they're, all these things. And
How
their
these dynamics work.
energy is huge because as you were talking about all these different types and the energy, and for you as a person, when you can honor your aura type, your energy type, however you want to say it, you're being you, and that's raising the vibration of the
Yeah.
planet, right? So like for you as a projector, you need rest. Like you are very structured in that, right? Like you're meant to go to sleep before you even feel tired kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And for me as a manifesting generator, I am meant to go, go, go until I'm ready to drop, right? Like
In a lot
I
of
can
ways.
just
Yeah.
go until I feel tired. Is that correct? Like
Yeah,
that's
there's
kind
some variables in there, but
yeah,
yes, yeah. So
yeah.
if you're going on things that don't light you up, so here's a key differentiation within the five aura types, right? There are sacrals and non-sacrals. Generators, my dear generators and manifesting generators, you have what's called a defined sacral center. That's the chakra that lives down in your gut. When people say go with your gut, that's for a generator. Not all types, not all humans are going to resonate with that because they have consistent access to this gut reaction. This sacral center is defined, is what we say in human design. If you are a manifestor, a projector, or a reflector, you do not have that defined, which doesn't mean that you don't have any energy. It just means that you don't have consistent access to that life force energy. And so I just like to see it as, if you have if you're a generator type, you have a sacral defined, you have a little bit of a bigger gas tank than if you are non-sacral, right? Your gas tank, if you're non-sacral, it just kind of empties a little bit faster and you need to refuel a little bit more often. Not bad. It's absolutely correct for you. You just operate in a little bit of a different way. However, for generators, you have a bigger gas tank. But if you are it works in a yes no capacity. If you are saying yes to your yeses, then you are going to empty your gas tank at an appropriate speed, let's say. If you are saying yes to the no's, you're going to drain that sucker and you're going to be exhausted, but you're still going to be going, right? Because that's what you've been trained to do as a good generator, to just go. And you're going to be really drained and you're going to move into burnout. So we're going to start pulling on adrenals. We're going to start pulling on, your willpower center, emotional energy, trying to keep going because you're burnout essentially. And we've done a really terrific job in the most terrifying way of burning out our generators as a society. And then on top of that, we've trained all our non-sacrals to behave like generators, so they're burnout too.
Yeah,
Everyone's just
exactly.
burnout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really about trusting your intuition, trusting your inner knowing of like what is meant for you, what is not meant for you. Say yes to the yeses, say no to the nos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to being a parent and paying attention to your energy type, just knowing, like for instance, if you're a projector and you have a manifesting generator child, knowing that they're going to have more energy than you, quote unquote, right? Like
Yeah.
they're going to be able to go a little bit further, a little bit more. So how can you navigate that as a projector, right? Scheduling in rest time, scheduling in quiet time, scheduling in whatever so that you
Yeah.
can refuel when you
Yeah.
need to. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's so one of the important distinctions about having sacral versus non-sacral is that sacral is impacting the non-sacral at all times. So if you have an undefined sacral center, you're receiving and amplifying the energy of the sacral center, which means if you are a non-sacral type, so projector, reflector, manifestor, and you have a child or a partner who is a sacral type, you have to get out of their aura for periods of time to be able to get a break from that constant sacral energy. So it doesn't take anything from a sacral being to share. Like when you're sharing your energy, it doesn't take away from anybody, but you're certainly receiving it and amplifying it. So you can feel very energized. Like I know for me, if I need to get house cleaning done, like the chores are piling up, like I do that when my kids are around. However, disruptive it might be or challenging to get things done with like a toddler
Right.
running around or, a kindergartner asking me a million questions, but I do it because I'm borrowing their sacral energy. Right. And I know that it can help. And, my son has a defined root center. So this is another layer, but I can borrow that sort of get up and go and use that energy. But it's also really important that I get time out of their auras. So just remember, our auras are double wingspan. Okay. So getting out of their energetic field for periods of time so that my sacral can have a rest. So oftentimes I'll walk the dogs or go for a run or exercise or something out of their energetic field because I'm intentionally burning the extra sacral energy that I have picked up in my aura from being in their presence. Not that it's bad.
Mhm.
This is important for sleep too. Because not every
Yeah.
type, if you're non-sacral and you're sharing a bed with a sacral, right, that can be challenging. So whether your kiddo's in bed in the bassinet next to you or your bed sharing or your partner, right, you have to start to think about where can I then fit in rest so that I can be at my best, because I can tell you from personal experience, right, not getting a break it's devastating in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I think that that speaks to, what we've been taught as a society, right? Of like you and your husband are meant to sleep in the same bed. There's these like unwritten rules of what your relationships, what your parenting, what your marriage is supposed to look like. And hearing you say that, like maybe it is okay for a projector wife and a manifestor husband to not sleep in the same room. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
actually better for their marriage than sleeping in the same bed every night, right?
Maybe for all people. um, challenge aggressive defiance here. Let's challenge status quo. And it's
Yes.
still a negotiation in my house, and so I find other time to get rest. And certainly, like you pointed out earlier, going to bed before I feel tired, going to bed before he comes to bed. And we're both non-sacrals, right? But also, it's just knowing quality sleep. And then there's all these other things about like how much stress has been put on the day and like what else is going on in life is just lifing,
Yeah.
but it's helpful to know these things that we're all sharing energy in our home, It's
Right.
bouncing wherever you are undefined in your chart. So if you look at your chart and there's some shapes, those boxes, and some of them are colored in and some of them are white, those places where it's white and they're not colored in, you're receiving, you're amplifying, you're reflecting that energy out. We'll get into the specifics of that in another podcast, but just understanding that you're sharing all this energy. And it's important, whether you are parent or child, to get time in your own energetic field and then to really honor that time. Now, I know what I find so interesting, Courtney, your house full of mini gens.
Gosh,
Like
yes.
that,
Every single one of us is a Manny Gen.
do you
And
ever do alone time?
oh, I have to. I
Yeah.
have to. And it's funny because I would have never said that. But I also think like, okay, let's have this conversation around like introverts versus extroverts too, right? Because and I don't know how much of that can come from human design, but I used to think that I was an extrovert because I love people and I am bubbly and I have energy and, da 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 da, all these things. But as soon as I had kids, I realized, well, actually, it wasn't even as soon as I had kids. It was when my kids went to school and I had that alone time that I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm a different human. How did I not know I needed all this alone time? So I actually learned then that I am an introvert at heart. Like I consider myself an extroverted introvert, right? Where I refuel
Mm-hmm.
alone, quiet time, but I love to be like around people, if
Yeah.
that makes, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because, if we think about the generator energy, and parenting, you're not getting the opportunity to just say yes to the yeses. You know what I mean? Like, no one wants to make another peanut butter and freaking jelly sandwich. No one wants to change another diaper or wipe like
Totally.
nobody wants to nag your kids to brush their teeth again and again and again. So there are a lot of these experiences that we just have as parents where you don't get a choice in that, right? It can be a full body no for you, a lot of these things, or it can be neutral even, right? You might enjoy taking care of somebody else or taking care of your kids, but you're still not getting to be in that zone of doing the things that you love that feel like they really light you up, even if you're so exhausted that that's just like scrolling on your phone for 20 minutes. Or it could be a hobby, it could be whatever it is, but without getting those chances to sort of fill your cup as a generator, especially. I mean, I think that's true for all people, but as a generator, especially, it wears on you and you do get to experience that burnout as a parent. And when you have these moments, the kids go to school, we're recording this in the middle of summer break and it's like, oh my God, what is happening?
Exactly. And this is like something I talk to my clients all the time about, right? I get a lot of moms who come to me who really struggle with not making time for themselves, not doing the things that fuel them because they feel that guilt
Yeah.
for making the appointment or not even making the appointment, just setting aside time to go for a walk or setting aside time to go for a hike or to just take a nap or like whatever it is that they really feel they need. And that it is challenging. Like that's the freaking challenge of being a mom, being a parent, right? But when we can do that, when we can actually make sure that we are getting what we need, it's so cliche, Bryn, of like fill your cup up before you can fill other people's
Yeah.
cups up. It's so freaking true. And
No.
I it in me. Like as soon as I notice I'm feeling frustrated because that's my sign of like I'm not in alignment, right? That or it's not even just frustration, but it's like this rushed, pressured
Mm.
like feeling that I get, I know I'm not fueling myself the way that I really would benefit from doing so, right? So
Yeah.
that's my signpost of like, okay, let's make sure I do the thing this week, whatever that is, go for a hike.
Yeah.
Being in nature is like my thing. I think it's a lot of people's thing, right? Because being in nature, we just feel so connected. But
Totally
and
true.
it's freaking hot here right now, so I can't really go on a hike. Gotta find
Not
other
past 6 a.m.
at 6 a.m., it's like 90 degrees. Not
uh,
yet, but it will get there. I was out this morning going for a walk with the dog and it was 75, but it still felt so hot. The sun is just so intense. So yeah, like making sure that you take it's not selfish at all to
yeah.
take time for you. It's actually the complete opposite of selfish. And I actually had somebody reframe this for me, not even like in respect to the kids, but like if anybody else is not allowing you or expecting you to not take time for yourself, like how selfish of them,
Mm. Hmm.
right? Of like, who are you to say that I don't need this?
Yeah. One of the interesting things that I've noticed in my client work is oftentimes we know these things about ourselves, but we feel guilty because it's like, yes, I know them on a certain level that I should be doing this or I should be doing that. Everyone tells me that's the right thing to take time for myself. Don't feel guilty. It's hard to take that on a mental level, but when we come to the body graph, when we come to human design, and I can look at this and say to somebody, this is how you're designed to operate, there is a level of validation and permission I notice comes with that, where it starts to dissolve that guilt. It starts to, like, you can kind of lean on that and say, no, I need this because this is how I am wired. Right.
Yes.
And then there's less apologizing for that,
Yeah.
and then we can start to take those moments, and then it becomes the confirmation bias. I know with my partner, he's like, it never used to be a conversation when we first got together of like, oh, I need more sleep than him. I was still kind of operating, as a generator in a lot of ways, and really uncovering this about myself. And now he's like, oh, yes, I know you need sleep, because we can both start to recognize and call out and bring that confirmation bias over to the side of like, oh, I notice how your mood is so much better when you're getting better rest. I notice how much more patient you are with the kids when you've had more rest. Or we even just notice like, ooh, I noticed that last night we didn't get a lot of sleep. He can have more compassion for me in that situation because he knows we didn't get sleep, and sleep directly affects the way that I'm able to show up in my mood. And that's true for all people, of course, but knowing, oh, you are actually wired to get more rest, right? Why don't you go lay down? There's more
Yeah.
compassion there, more
Yeah.
understanding.
And I love what you said about like the giving permission to
Mm,
actually follow your design, right? That's been
yeah.
huge for me and my clients as well. And something that you mentioned, because like the sleep aspect is so fascinating to me. So, um, as a manifesting generator, like I know that I typically have more energy and I have a lot of energy. What do you call them? Gates, channels? I forget what you,
Center, you have all four
yeah, the
motor
motor.
centers
Yeah.
defined. Yeah.
So I'm supposed to have all this energy, right? And actually, what I'm learning in my experiment is that I have so much conditioning from a perspective of nervous system dysregulation, right? Like
Mm,
we can have that conversation too of trauma, of nervous system dysregulation. I've lived most of my life dysregulated without even knowing it. So while technically, according to my chart, I should have more energy than my husband. He can actually go on less sleep than I can. And
mm.
it's because of my nervous system work that I've been working on now for a couple years solidly, right? Once I realized that my nervous system was totally whack. Um, and I don't know that I should really get into details about that, but I guess we could. Um, so that's another sign for me of when I'm exhausted, I know it's like my nervous system is revved up and okay, what can I do for that? How can I help that? And again, this is like the experiment of it, right? Everybody's gonna be different. Even if you're human, if your design is telling you one thing and you're feeling something different, we want to honor what's there, right? What you're feeling, what's there. I could be told all day long, according to my chart, that you're meant to have all this energy in the world. What's wrong with you? And it's like, nothing's wrong with me. I know that like I'm honoring me right here. And to speak to kind of the what you were talking about with, I don't remember, it's gone. Something came up for me of like the somatic awareness, right? Of, yeah, it's gone. I don't know where it went.
It'll come back if it's meant to.
We're gonna honor it. Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I think there is this, it's easy to look at the chart and say, oh, you have all four motor centers defined. But just like we were talking about with the sacral, if it's like, yes, you're going to have consistent access to a lot of energy so long as it's all being expressed appropriately, right? It's being used appropriately. So if you look at the four motor centers, which are the sacral, the root, the emotional solar plexus, and the ego or willpower center, we're looking at those, and and we can start to look at, with your nervous system, for example, the root center that has a connection with the adrenals. And so is your nervous system in fight or flight or freeze more often than not? And if so, are you pulling on more adrenaline constantly, right? Because then you're bringing a level of burnout to that center. It's not being used appropriately, energetically speaking. Same for the willpower center, same for emotions, right? So there is this element of, and I say this to generators all the time. It's like, if there's burnout in any capacity, you have to bring that level of burnout down by honoring your design, right? Say yes to more yeses, say no to more no's, start to bring that balance in, get the rest. And that might look like a lot of rest for a period of time, which would be counterintuitive for a generator, you would think, but that's a human thing.
Yeah.
Like, you have to bring the burnout down and start to find ways that you can rebuild that sort of come back into balance, rebuild your reserves of rest, so to speak, and then start operating in alignment.
Yes. And like, talk about bringing the burnout down. How do we actually go about doing that? Right. And that's about honoring where you are in the moment and not shoulding, coulding yourself all day long. It's being present with what's for you right now and honoring what your body is telling you, right? Because all of it comes from that innate knowing. And you might be the person, this is a weird like story or thing to say, but like, you might be the person that loves to go to parties and you love to hang out with your friends and whatever, but in the moment, your body is telling you, don't go, you're tired. Honor that.
Right. I can hear people listening to this, and I can hear them being like, yeah, well, I have my kids full time, or, like, I'm burnt out from things I can't say no to, right? Like, I'm exhausted from the kids. And I just feel like, in the spirit of this conversation and the spirit of this podcast, it's sort of like also recognizing where we can bring more ease into our interactions with our children and our partner and within the household by honoring their designs as well. So, for example, if you are a generator type, either a generator or a manifesting generator, and you have a projector or a reflector or a manifestor child, there can be significant friction if you're expecting them to operate the way that you operate. And vice versa, right? As a projector, if I expect if my generator children to operate as I operate, we're going to have some serious issues, right? There are other things in the chart that we'll get to down the road, I think, that are more nuanced, but have huge implications. Like we've talked about, you and I separately, about environment and that sort of thing. But knowing just even the generalities of the aura type, knowing a projector might need more rest than a manifesting generator. If you're a Mani-Gen parent and you have a projector child and you're expecting them to go, 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 or to go, go, go on your schedule, that is really dishonoring their energy. They're going to get into a level of burnout. And now you're going to have heightened emotions and nervous system dysregulation, and things are going to get really stressful. There's going to be a lot of friction, and that could be contributing as a parent to your own dysregulation. So where can we start to kind of
can I
come
share a
back to
story
that?
about this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to you, but I have a story around this with my own kids. So, manifesting generators, like, from what I know, we are meant to, when we feel tired, then you rest. It's not a matter of planning it, knowing that we need rest ahead of time or anything like that, right? It's like a go until you feel tired. Is that?
Kind of. There can be some conditioning and not knowing when to stop.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, one thing, I was actually talking to my therapist about this at one point, and there was so much friction at bedtime with me and my kids because I was like, I call myself a sleep Nazi in our house because I've always been the mom that is, you need to take your naps, you need to go to sleep, you need to have this much sleep, da 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 da, knowing how important it is for brain development and behavior and, just all the things. Not just brain development, but just overall development too, right? And I just know how important that is. So I've always been that sleep Nazi. And recently, in the past several years, it's gotten to the point where there's a lot of friction at bedtime because the kids aren't ready to go to bed yet, right? They're like, we all talk about that. What's the phrase of the evening time, witching hour, when the kids go crazy, right? And as parents, it's so frustrating. And my therapist just reframed it. And she was like, well, what if you just let them and like let them go to bed when they're ready to go to bed? And I was like, like, what? Why would I do that? There's no way I could do that. And that's my own conditioning and controlling self,
Mhm.
right? And I tried it and it released so much tension between me and my kids. I was trusting that they knew when they were ready for bed. Of course, there was boundaries, no TV, no screens, after a certain time. If you don't want to go to bed yet, you can read a book, you can play quietly, whatever it looks like for
Yeah.
them. But since I've been able to release some of that, and I'm getting goosebumps as I'm talking about it, it's been a world of a difference. Like no friction at bedtime when I'm ready to go to bed and I'm just frustrated because they're not going to bed and I need to go to bed and blah, 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 right? I wanted to share that because it speaks to exactly what you were talking about of honoring their design.
Yeah. And yours too, right? We can recognize that there was an ego aspect to this where it was trying to control. And yes, it's really important when they're very young, you have to make them sleep. You have to, because then they get overtired. You can't expect a baby or a toddler to regulate their own sleep.
Right.
But it's like in
Exactly.
that control, you were creating friction because you were out of alignment in terms of, your own self and your own idea and letting that ego take over rather than your instinct, which when presented to you was sort of like, ooh, yes, like right, the sacral yes came in. And I know you have emotional authority, but I'm sure sitting with it and playing with it, then you can find your peace, experimenting with it, 3 line as a 1-3,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
find your peace around that of like, oh, okay, I can let go and see this. And now with that experimentation under your belt, you're like, okay, now I can trust
Okay.
this at
Yes. It's
this
a
stage, right?
yes.
But it's both you and right. You're fighting their nature. You're fighting your nature. Where intuitively, if you would have sat with that, I'm willing to bet at some point you would have come to like, well, let's just try this.
Yeah,
You
probably.
know,
Right. Yeah. And I want to point out, like, when you're reaching behind your head, like ego, I love how you do that
I
because
can't help it. Reptilian
I,
brain.
yes, I do it all the time. And I'm like, our reptilian brain, our aware, cognition brain. And it just made me laugh because you did
Yeah,
that. And
I
I'm
can't
like,
help it. I'm always this
yeah.
reptilian brain back here, base of your skull. If you're just listening,
Yeah.
that base of your skull, I always tap that. It's like ego mind coming in, survival instincts, of control, because that's safe. And that's a lot of times where our nervous system goes when we are trying to control things. It's a safety thing.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
listen, it is survival when you're small. And it's like you need to sleep because you need to sleep, but I need to sleep. I'm tired.
Yeah,
I need
exactly.
rest. Go to sleep. And I remember when my first was born, and in that everyone says sleep when the baby sleeps, and it's like, no, that anxiety kicks in. I know there's hormones, but like the anxiety kicks in that I can't get anything done when the baby's awake, so I'm just going to do all that. And boy, do I wish. She was not old. Just probably by the time she was 2, I was bringing in human design. But had I known at that time, I would have really honored and been able to honor sleep when the baby sleeps without as much guilt, because I would have understood a little bit better as a projector. I need to have and sleep in a different room if possible. Nap
Yeah.
on the couch if I have to, if she's in the bassinet or whatever situation
Yeah.
you have in your home.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, so good. So
Yeah.
good.
But it really does come back. I mean, coming full circle a little bit is like really understanding what do we need first and beginning to reconnect with that, because a lot of times we become so disconnected. A lot of generators don't even hear their sacral yes and no.
Yeah.
If you have emotional authority, which is, we'll get into authorities, but if that's when you look at your type, if it says emotional generator, emotional manifesting generator, emotional whatever, um understanding what that means to feel your emotions before making a decision, right? Giving yourself, when your kids are like, hey, can I do this, and you're like, no, because no is always like the first answer. It's like, okay, wait, let me make a decision. And how do I communicate that with my children? Like, give yourself the time that you need to be the best version of you. That will by default create a softer, more loving, more smooth relationship with your kids, whatever age or stage they're in.
Right.
And I am also recognizing as I say this, it's like knowing this and then practicing this and then living this. Those are 3 different things. It's easier said
Totally.
than
Yes.
done.
100%. And that pause, I call it a pause, right? Of reacting just out of the gate. That's like our just trigger reaction, right?
Mm.
Based on our conditioning, based on our past experiences and whatever, and creating that space between what is the thing that's triggering you to how am I going to respond? And it can be
Mm.
different for everybody and how long that takes, and it's
Yeah.
practice, right? And you're not going to be perfect at first. And sometimes it's just about recognizing and being aware that this thing even triggered you or that how you reacted, right? Some people aren't even aware that they're reacting that way. It just
Mm-hmm.
depends on where you're at in your journey. And yes, you're right. Like knowing it, doing it, like all of these are different things in different situations. And giving yourself grace in wherever you're at is so important
Yeah.
because you can't shame yourself through and like into this feeling better, right? That never ever works. It needs to come from a place of like love and compassion for yourself. And um that can be really tricky for a lot of people and something I'm kind of bouncing all over the place. That's like my manny-gen brain, right? But
All good.
um lost it.
It'll come back.
Love it.
That's that open head center of yours. And head and ajna is just like, what's coming through right now? Can I capture it? Yeah, one of the things that I feel a little bit called to do is maybe just go through the aura types and just give a little bit of just a short little tip about interacting with our partner and our kids based on your aura types. Is that cool?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what was coming through is if you're a manifester as a parent, remember the strategy there is to inform. And so, there's a lot of the manifester is not designed to be told what to do ever. Not that your kids are necessarily going to be telling you what to do, but it's this, there's always this authoritarian kind of feel. It's like, this is the way that we're doing it because this is the way, because that is how the manifester works. And then anger comes up a lot. So the missing link I see oftentimes is that informing. Like, here's what people, letting your family know, your kids or let your partner, what can they expect based on what, like, here's the you're going your direction, right? What can they expect? And then communicating any changes along the way, so that they feel in the loop and they can kind of keep up and they're not just like, oh, because I said so, right? Like, we're doing this because I said so. It creates ease and understanding there. And it is the way that your aura is designed. So just adding, not asking for permission, especially in your partnership, but really just kind of adding in like this element of just informing along the way, can really be helpful. As generators, again, responding, but responding from that gut knowing place rather than the reactionary place that you were talking about of, when there's nervous system or there's trauma or there's whatever conditioning that you might have present, that's a brain, that's a here I go, tap again, right?
Yeah.
That's an ego mind, that reptilian brain reaction. You're really designed as a generator type to be in response to your environment. So whether that's the auras coming and bumping into you of your children or your partner, it's like really being responsive to the energy, not in reaction to it, if that makes sense. So if they come to you and they're asking for something, it's sort of like, what's the gut say, not the mind, right? And that's a tricky thing. This I will tell you, because we have conditioned our generators out of listening to their gut response. It's a tricky thing, but coming back to it in the simplest of ways on a day-to-day can help you reconnect. So like, by the way, generators are yes, no. Individuals is more black and white, whereas the non-sacral types need open-ended questions. Pin that for a second. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But really kind of coming back to like, do I want Mexican for dinner tonight? Yes or no? Do I want Italian for dinner tonight? These simple decisions, right? So then when it's like, your kid, can I go play at so-and-so's house? It's like, do I want them out of my space? The projector me is like, yes, go.
Yeah,
Right?
and to speak
But
about like being conditioned out of listening to your gut, right? Of
yes.
we're in a world of like, what are the pros and cons? Let's make this logical. Let's really think our way through this. And it's like kind of disregarding that and like
Yeah.
going what feels right, that gut
Yeah.
reaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we
And then
can
as a,
logic our way through anything.
yeah. Lodge, that's so funny. You have the gate of rationalization, so you can rationalize anything. And that's exactly I think what
I
you're saying.
literally feel like I could literally rationalize anything.
You can. You have it with your Mercury. That's going to be literally, you communicate how you rationalize things. So funny. You cannot make this up.
Yeah.
If you're a manifesting generator, by the way, you're in response to your environment, but then there's an element of informing as well. So remember that it's like, okay, so this is why I'm feeling this, I'm noticing this, I'm feeling this. And this is a yes for me, or this is a no for me. And then this is what is going to happen next. Maybe it's the reason why. That's not necessarily as important, but it's like, no, you can't go to your friend's house. We have to go to the grocery store and drop off or pick up or whatever, right? Like these series of things that need to happen. So there's information that comes along with it that can help smooth that communication. If you're a projector, I think the biggest smoothing technique here is to I'm going to say the word withhold, but I'm not saying it in a constricting way. I'm saying this in the honor the invitation, whether the invitation is there or not. It's very easy for projectors to want to jump in and fix. And that is how you're designed, because you can see the way that you can fix it and you know how it needs to be done and how it should be done. But if they haven't asked you, then there's no invitation there. And then that's just going to put up a barrier. It's going to bring up the defense, right? Like the walls go up. So really as a projector parent, make sure that you're pausing to say, hey, do you want my help with that? Or do you want to, do you want my thoughts on that? Can I help you with this? Right? Like that can be really helpful in easing things. So you're not just walking around feeling so bitter and resentful because nobody listens to your advice, because you're spewing out advice like a freaking volcano and no invitations are present. So everyone's just rejecting it. So that can be really, really helpful.
And I love what you said about it's like you're creating the opportunity to be invited,
Mm-hmm.
right? This whole wait to respond or wait to be invited, it's not about just sitting around and doing nothing and waiting and building that resentment because nobody's asking, right? Nobody's
Sometimes
inviting
we
it.
get to sit around and that's fun because it's resting, but
Right, for sure. But like it's also about
yeah.
creating that opportunity for you
Yeah.
to be invited
Yep.
or to respond to, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a huge,
Even just
that's
let me know, I'm here to help. You can kind of train your kids or your partner and just with this sort of reiterating over and over, like, hey, I'm here to help. If you want, just ask. Right. And
yeah.
then allowing them to, I try to sit back and watch some before jumping in, and then pausing. Can I help you with that? Do you want my help with that? How can I help? Depending on your child's aura type, or your partner, those are ways that you can frame that. If you're a reflector, again, there's such a, you're a lunar being. So it's like sort of dependent on where you are in the cycle. It's hard to say, even for a reflector, just do this one thing. You're oftentimes going to be meeting them where they are in their aura. So really understanding where you are in your energy at that moment, and then responding or informing or waiting for an invitation or setting up the stage for an invitation to be opened up. That can be really helpful. Even just holding the space and observing, and then allowing, again, making those blanket statements of like, I'm here if you want some help or if you want some guidance. I can help. Just ask. All you have to do is ask. And then allowing them to come to you. Or you can meet them if for example, you're a reflector and you have a Manny Gen child, you can sort of kind of mirror back what they need the most. So maybe they need the yes, no questions. Maybe they need to be informed a little bit more, right? Like you can kind of feel into that. So no one size fits all for reflectors, unfortunately, and fortunately, because it's perfect for them. Then the last thing I will say too is this concept of sacral beings and non-sacrals. Yes, no questions versus open-ended questions. If you are a generator type, your partner is a generator type, or your children are generator types, they really thrive with yes, no questions. Really thrive being able to connect with that sacral yes or no, which is a visceral feeling of yes or no, right? And all the variety of ways that comes through. We were talking about the sound, the generator sounds, that gut sound that they make, and it may be it may be it may be ooh, like there's all these ways that generators make these sounds. I was telling Courtney about my son at bedtime. I'll just at bedtime, and that's sort of my generator communication with him of like, this is for me, this is good. And because he's just 2, it's easier to communicate in that way, and he does it back, or he has his sounds that we know when something's a yes or something's a no for him. And I'm really intentional about not taking that away from him by correcting him in a different way, because I want him to nurture and foster that connection with
Yeah.
his, and same for my daughter, of course. He's just
Yeah.
naturally much more vocal in that way.
So instead of saying, well, I don't know what that means, use your words, you're allowing him to express in that way.
Yeah, I allow him to express that way. Yeah. And sometimes it's like, oh, is there a word for that?
Yeah.
Yes or no, right? Like I'm asking things in such a way like, are you mad right now? Oh, you're feeling sad, right? Like I might associate it in a yes no way of like, oh, you're happy. Are you happy, baby? Or something like that, because it's that yes no, just getting them to connect the emotions with the sounds and just really anchoring that in, not making him say it or label it.
Yeah.
I'm, helping him with the development of words and associating with emotions, of course, because that's the stage that he's at. But, even for older kids, like allowing that to be okay if they grunt as an answer, not being like, you're so disrespectful of your elders.
Right. Right.
It's like, yeah.
Back to like I don't know why food is coming up, but for my son, I recognized that when I would ask him, what do you want for breakfast?
Mm,
He'd, like just like shrug
yeah.
his shoulders. I have no idea. And I started asking, do you want eggs for breakfast? Do you want
Yep.
this for breakfast? And it's like so much easier for him to respond to that.
Yes, absolutely. And yourself too. And again, it's like if you're a generator and that's been really shut down, food is actually a very good way, because it's so multisensory, to
Mm.
start to reconnect with your sacral center and that sacral yes or no. By
Food.
contrast, if you're non-sacral, open-ended questions are much better. Everyone I think hates the what do you want for dinner question. I think that's just like
Yes.
universal.
Yes.
Um, I will sometimes say something like, what kind of food sounds good? And just like
Mm.
rephrase it. What kind of food sounds good tonight? Or what kind of foods do you definitely not want? Right. Because
Yeah.
then it kind of opens up things. But when you have as an adult, for sure, and depending on the age of your children, it's like a lot of times they've been conditioned as a non-sacral to just answer the yes no for convenience and ease and conditioning, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, hey, do you want to go with me to do this? Yeah, I guess. Right. Or, what do you want to do with your afternoon? Like, I'm going here. What do you want to do with your afternoon? Or I'm doing this. I need you to come with me. Do you want to, what kind of toys do you want to bring or whatever? We can open end it and get them thinking about, again, we're balancing based on their age and autonomy. Like, what can we
Yeah.
balance here in terms of what we have to make them
Yeah.
do or whatever?
Exactly. Or what's coming up too is like school age, your kids get home from school and I learned very early on, like, don't ask the yes no questions because they're just going to say yes no. Like, did you have fun at school? How was your day? Good. Like, they don't really go into detail about what their day was, right? So asking the open-ended questions to allow them to feel into like, what do I actually want to talk about my day or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's not like this black and white. You only can ask your kid yes, no questions. It's
Yeah,
just like if they're struggling to answer open-ended questions, you can absolutely reframe it into a yes, no question.
for sure. I find with generators, rarely is it a yes, no answer. I know kids are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Definitely depending on hormones and age and all that fun stuff. But I will sometimes add a yes, no on to an open-ended question just to make it a little bit easier. So it'll be like, oh, what did you guys do at school today? Do you remember?
I
Kind
love
of
that.
that, just adding that, like, do you know? Yeah, what was your favorite thing from today? Do you have one?
Oh, I love that so much. That's a good,
So
yeah.
brings in that sacral aspect, but it's bigger than just like, did you have fun today? You know what I mean? It's like it's
Yeah.
starting to recall and make it more robust, or I don't know. That's my little hack
Yeah,
for
I
that
love
right
that.
now
Love that
for
so
my
much.
kindergarten age child.
Yes.
With all
Which she
my years of
probably doesn't
experience.
stop talking about her day, does she?
It's interesting because she really does need a little bit of time. She is a generator, of course. She does have a lot of openness in her chart. She does need time to sort of decompress, and sometimes we have quiet rides home from school. She was in daycare, which was a small daycare run by a childcare profession, an early childhood education professional. So it was very school like in that Montessori kind of
Yeah.
way, you know what I mean? And then she went into preschool last year, and then she'll be in kindergarten this year. So it's, I think we've got a taste of it, but we'll see. It's going to change when she goes into a more formal education situation, and we that may not endure. You know, we may not stick with that. I don't know yet, but anyway, all that to say, you know, sometimes I just honor that she needs the quiet. You know, are you tired? You seem tired. You tired? Yeah. You know, okay. And then we just talk. Or would you rather just listen to music? Yeah. Okay. Or no. Sometimes she says no. We just sit in silence, and that's okay. But then she'll come back and bounce back around once she has a little bit of rest. But again, it's like some of that is you know, her openness in her chart that I can connect it to. And some of it's just like, you know what, it was a freaking long day. Like I,
Yeah.
I would be tired too, you know, or it was hot today, and that
Yeah.
drains people. It's just a human thing, you know?
Exactly. And that brings me, like, it brings up for me this is such a cool tool to have, right? To learn about so we can understand ourselves, understand our loved ones, blah, 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 blah. And there's so much power, like, in not even focusing on the details of it and just honoring what is in the moment.
Yeah.
Right? Like earlier when I said something about I don't remember what it was, and you looked at my chart and you said, "Oh my gosh, you have this." And I'm like, I wasn't thinking to myself, "Oh, I have this channel or this gate and this is how da da da
Yeah.
da." Like that's not what's happening. We are humans and we are living life, and it just is to be able to look at the chart and say, "Oh, this makes sense." And again, it brings back that permission to just be you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that was a lot of information, and I think some really great conversation, and I'm feeling complete.
Same.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So maybe we'll wrap it here today and figure out our next topic and be back with the
Go
next
from there.
episode
Yeah,
when it feels
stay
right.
tuned. Stay
Okay.
tuned. And we'd love to hear from you. If you have any comments, questions, anything that resonates, like you can absolutely comment if this is on YouTube, or you can
We'll put
email
our
us. However.
information in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously, if any of this is resonating and you feel like you have a friend or somebody who really would benefit from this information, send it their way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, everyone. Bye for now. See you soon.
Hi, guys.